Think of all the great cities of the Arabian Peninsula: Jeddah, Doha, Muscat, Dubai, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi. What do they all have in common? Well, they all embrace the sea. Which is logical really, because why would anyone build a city in the middle of an inhospitable desert? A city of over 7 million people? That would be crazy, right? In Saudi Arabia, expect the unexpected. This is Riyadh.
مرحبا فيكم في رياض. Welcome to Riyadh.
During my short visit, I'll be sampling the cultural life, walking in the air, stepping into the future, as well as the past, experiencing the Festival of Light, and also buying lots of dates. Before we dive into this mad metropolis, don't forget to subscribe and click for notifications. Okay, yalla yalla, let's go. I arrived in Riyadh with an image of a dusty city of busy highways and vast shopping malls. But as I soon found out, there's much more to the city than those stereotypes. Where I am now was the historic centre of Riyadh, but there are very few original buildings remaining. One of those, though, is the building behind me, the Masmak fort, although even that only dates back around 150 years. Al Masmak Fortress is now a museum that details how the army of King Abdul Aziz retook the fort in the 1902 Battle of Riyadh. The restoration of Saudi control over the capital was a key event in the unification of the entire country and the establishment of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 1932. Models and old photographs show clearly how even into the 1950s Riyadh extended little beyond the fort's walls. As I was walking around the fort, I thought to myself, you know, there must be some octogenarians in Riyadh who can remember a childhood spent in a small town surrounded by mud brick walls. If their teachers had told them then that one day this would be one of the largest cities in the world, I don't think anybody would have believed them. There are few places in Riyadh that better exemplify the rapid pace of change here in Saudi Arabia. I'm at Justice Square. Until fairly recently, you could be sitting here on a Friday and suddenly witnessing a public execution. That's why it's also known as Chop Chop Square. These days it's more cafe latte than chop chop, which has to be a move in the right direction. There are a number of souks to the south of the square, the most traditional of which is the carpet market, the Souk Al-Zel, which is also a great place to pick up antiques. My hotel is near the Faisaliya Tower, which is useful because if there's a communication problem with the taxi driver, I simply make the sign of a pyramid. It was completed in 2000 and Norman Foster and Partners had the honour of creating the first skyscraper in Saudi Arabia, which seems incredible now because in 2023 Jeddah is building the tallest tower in the world. I'm told that the Golden Orb is a gourmet restaurant and that there's an observation deck, but sadly it's closed today. But not to worry, because now in Riyadh there is of course a much taller tower. Ever since I first saw a picture of the Kingdom Tower and realised that there was a skywalk across the very top, I thought, I really want to do that. And today's the day, even though I get terrible vertigo. Let's do it. Kingdom Tower sits above a shopping mall and its lobby has quite an Art Deco vibe. The 99 stories include offices, a hotel and luxury apartments, all with incredible views over the city, but none that beat those of the skybridge, 300 metres above the city streets. Well, I've got the shots that I need and my legs are now starting to turn to jelly, so I think that's me done. Riyadh is currently building a metro and it can't come soon enough. I've not been here very long and already I've realised that I might as well walk than take a taxi because it's faster. Now you're probably wondering, where does this desert metropolis get its water from? That is a very good question. With the limited groundwater reserves now proving vastly insufficient for the modern city, the majority of Riyadh's water comes from desalination plants on the Arabian Gulf, nearly 500 kilometres away. But desalination comes at an enormous cost, both financially and for the environment, which is why water consumption initiatives are high on the government's agenda. As the country becomes hotter and drier, Riyadh faces an increasing problem. In the future, water will be a more valuable commodity than oil. The National Museum of Saudi Arabia is the jewel in Riyadh's cultural crown. With a rich collection of artefacts, it studies the history of the Arabian Peninsula over the centuries from pre-Islamic times to the modern Saudi state. You'll find priceless examples of rock art. For example, these standing stones are some of the earliest monuments of Arabia and date from the 4th millennium BC. Curious how there's an element of pop art in these ancient symbols. The hall, dedicated to the Nabateans and their city at Hegra, includes a recreation of one of the famous rock tombs, as well as various artefacts from the UNESCO World Heritage Site. The story of the Prophet Muhammad is, of course, given great prominence in the museum. I learnt a huge amount about his legendary flight to Medina to avoid his circling enemies in Mecca, a story that is close to the heart of all Muslims, but less well known in the wider world. The halls dedicated to the two holy mosques at Mecca and Medina are an absolute must-see. For a non-Muslim, this is as close to experiencing Mecca as I will ever get. The scale models are simply stunning. And of course, the natural world of the Arabian Peninsula is not forgotten. From beautiful desert roses to a mysterious meteorite found in the empty quarter. This is a world-class museum, and you'll need to give it at least 2 hours to do it any kind of justice. It's also surrounded by one of the most welcoming green spaces in the whole of the city. It's a true oasis. Now for some shopping. Saudi Arabia is the place to buy dates, so a trip to the Lulu hypermarket is like date nirvana. Forget those tiny packs that you get back in the UK. Look at that, 1 kilogram of premium medjool dates. And a few more besides, right up to the maximum weight limit. Of course, there's no shortage of upmarket places to eat, but if you're on a budget or simply want something quick, then try the food courts in the shopping malls. I've become a massive fan of Yemeni cuisine, and whilst I was in the Panorama Mall, I've just been to see the new Napoleon movie. Big deal, you might say. Well, actually, it is a big deal, because don't forget that cinemas only reopened here 6 years ago, after being closed for 35 years. Generations and generations without going to the movies. And if you're curious, no, it wasn't segregated. That's how fast Saudi Arabia is now changing. As you drive in from the airport, you can't fail to miss this collection of contemporary glass towers. This is the King Abdullah Finance District, or the KAFD for short. And as you can see, it's just littered with cutting-edge architecture. It's a business district and also a leisure and residential zone. And as you can hear, a lot of it is still under construction. A host of world-famous architects have been brought in to give shape to the KAFD. This city within a city feels to me a little like London's Barbican Centre, albeit updated for 21st century Arabia. If you'll forgive the pun, Riyadh is definitely not a cultural desert. Tonight is the opening night of a festival of light called Noor 2023, which is taking place at various sites across the city. But I think this has to be the perfect location, because KAFD is itself probably one of the largest light installations on the planet. This is the part where I think that I've entered Blade Runner. In fact, this is the 3rd edition of Noor Riyadh, and is the largest light festival in the world. I only wish I'd had time to visit all of the locations. Maybe next year. Outside the King Fahd Library, you'll find street food, electric scooters, toy cars, and if you're really lucky, something very special. I told you there was a really full cultural programme. For now, Riyadh remains more of a business destination, but over the years to come that will no doubt change. The billboards are already up for Expo 2030, and then of course there's also the World Cup. They'd better get that metro finished. If you've enjoyed this short film, then please subscribe to the channel and I'll see you on the next journey.